And call the meeting to order. And we will start with a roll call.
Dr. Schumacher,
I'm here.
Mrs. Schmidt, Mr. Munoz, Mr. Tatum. Here. Mrs. Boley. Here. Dr. Beeson. Dr. Bonebrake. Here. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we will look to recess to executive session. So I'll need a motion for that.
I move the USD 501 Board of Education recess into executive session for 30 minutes to discuss confidential personnel matters to protect the privacy of the individual employees to be discussed pursuant to the personnel exception of the Kansas Open Meetings Act. The board will return to open session in the boardroom at 6:01 p.m. The superintendent, executive staff, Mr. Minke and Mr. Busey are invited into the executive session.
And a second for that motion. Ms. Boley? Yes. Any discussion? Okay, ready for a vote.
The vote is open. All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
Okay. 6:01-ish. So we are back in session and we have the Pledge of Allegiance up next.
Perfect. Oh, I have an outstanding student, so outstanding. In fact, he's going to get his own microphone. Come on up here so you can be seen on camera during the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll turn it over to you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, while you'll hear from the student later in the program, can you share who you are, what school you go to?
Hi, I'm Wyatt Humphrey and I go to Topeka High School.
And can you share why you're here as a brilliant scholar?
I'm here because I was chosen as a National Merit finalist in the National Merit Scholarship Corporation program.
Now, we'll be celebrating him again, but let's give him an applause just for that acknowledgement, which is really following you up again, okay? Thank you. He didn't know I was going to do that.
Okay, so we can move on and we have the adoption of the agenda. So I need a motion for that.
I move the board adopt the agenda as presented.
And a second. Mr. Tatum? And any discussion or questions? If not, I'll move to a vote.
And the vote is open. All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
Great, and I'll turn it back over to Dr. Anderson for school highlights.
This is. And as we get started with our school highlights, we're going to first start off with calling Mr. Dick up. He's going to really stay up in this space, both not only for our National Merit Student Highlight, which is the black and gold for this evening that I'm wearing, but also for our future teachers who just had dinner. I had the pleasure of joining for a little bit of dinner. They introduced me to another barbecue place in Topeka. Having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Dick. He's going to talk about the student, and then following that, he's going to stay at the podium and talk a little bit about CTE and call Ms. Kinsey up. Mr. Dick.
So we're here tonight, a couple of different things. So you're going to see a little bit of me tonight, I guess. I think I'm on here for about three things this evening. First, we're going to recognize Mr. Wyatt Humphrey again. So Wyatt, you want to come back up? This. And so Wyatt is a finalist for the National Merit Scholarship this year. And so we have his certificate from National Merit for him for his achievement of that, and then the board certificate. So congratulations, Wyatt.
Thank you.
And I'll let you visit with Wyatt and ask him a couple questions if you want to, but outstanding student. Scholars Bowl, does a lot of those things, and really has one of the highest GPAs I've ever seen of a high school senior.
And can you share, how do you become a National Merit Scholar? The board members likely
Sure.
know.
He took the PSAT test and he's one of the top scorers in the PSAT in the country. So they take the top 50,000 scores and then work their way down through there to find the finalists. And so Wyatt has made that cut and is a finalist from those scores. So he's outstanding. Math is really his thing. He's taken all of the math courses that we have to offer. And this year actually we had to pay for him to take math from the University of Illinois. So we get another math class for him and from a university that would transfer to where he wants to go. So he's outstanding.
No, there are questions. Can you come?
Are there questions from Dr. Beeson?
Hi, Wyatt.
Hi.
So Wyatt was one of my students as a 6th and 7th grader. Haven't seen him in several years. I've known you since you were 11, right? And I saw on social media about this before you came here tonight. It didn't surprise me at all. But I do want to tell everyone a little bit about Wyatt as a human being. And that is that he started at a new school in 6th grade. and was very brave to do so. It was a small group of kids who were tight knit. And he was immediately kind and respectful and thoughtful and open minded, very curious and engaged student, open to friendships. There's nothing negative that I could say about Wyatt, and it is such a pleasure to see you tonight and to see you grown up into a young man. So big congratulations to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Other questions from Dr. Bombrig?
What are your post-graduation immediate goals? Like, where do you want to go to college and major?
I still deciding on the college. Haven't heard back from the majority of them, so that decision will come later down the line. But I plan on majoring in physics at the moment, no matter where I end up going. Those are my I guess most immediate plans.
Mr. Munoz?
You know, for a student to be successful, they need help in the classroom, but also outside of the classroom. You have anyone who joined you today who you might want to sort of shout out and introduce us to?
Well, okay. Well, so there, my mom and my dad, who are right behind me, helped me every step along the way. Helped inspire my curiosity many times, and helped me when I didn't want to do the work sometimes, and helped me push through. I couldn't be here right now without them, and I love them with all my heart.
Well, thank you all, family, for being here and supporting them.
And my grandma too.
Anybody else? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Miss Molly.
So one of the things we really want in our district is have academic excellence. That's really our top goal. We also want students to have other experiences as well. Are you involved in things at school that help you stay focused in school? And what might those be?
Well, for one, I am involved in our school's Scholars Bowl team, which has to do with competitive trivia at the academic level. That's been really fun. Helps it's good review for a lot of courses that I've taken in the past. I am also a part of the THS orchestra and the
Nice.
Larry Harris Quintet, and I play bass in both groups, and I'm forgetting something, I'm sure. But,
Are you also connected with the other merit scholar in the district? Do you guys know each other?
no, I've never met.
Sounds like a good partnership.
Yeah.
We are just so proud of you. And as a district, we are just so proud to have someone of your caliber. And we appreciate all the hard work you put into it. It's really why we sit up here, is to have the best education possible for our students. And we certainly hope that we help you with that.
Well,
Thank you for being here tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Wyatt. Great job tonight.
Thank you.
Then Topeka West and Mr. Buckendorf also have a National Merit Scholar this year.
Okay, so Wyatt, in 4 years when you graduate, we're always looking for a good physics teacher, so come on back, and see me. So another great student, Jacob Marchant, also is a finalist, so come on up, Jacob, real quick. I've got your certificate from National Merit Scholars, and then the certificate from the district. I'm sure they're going to want to hear all the great things you're doing too.
Any questions for Jacob? Yeah, Dr. Beeson.
So what you've accomplished is quite special and rare. And I'm curious within the district if there are certain courses that you feel like were especially interesting or challenging to you.
I really loved the AP Calculus course that was delivered by Mr. Lake. He is probably the best teacher I've had at Topeka West.
That's amazing. Very good. Well, congratulations to you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Mr. Tatum.
Jacob, thanks for being here. Congratulations. I think this is a good night to get to know both of you scholars that have come to join us this evening. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I'm really curious about your background. It looks like you may have some family members here, hobbies, things like that you do that kind of completes the picture of who Jacob is.
I would say first and foremost, my hobby is learning. I love to learn about new things, pretty much no matter what they are. I've always been particularly interested in computers, and I hope that it will play at least some part in my post-secondary education.
And it looks like you may have brought some folks with you. Part of your cheering section, I'm thinking.
These are my dad, my grandma, my mom, and my sister. They have really helped me. They help me push on even when I struggle to get work done. They have helped me stay on track, keep things on schedule.
All right. Yeah. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, Ms. Schmidt.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you weren't always a Topeka Public Schools kid, correct?
That is correct.
You came from parochial school.
Yes.
So talk about your experience transitioning from a parochial school to Topeka Public Schools. What was that experience like for you?
So, as an eighth grader, I went from kindergarten to eighth grade. I went to Topeka Lutheran School, which by the time I graduated had only about 80 kids in all grades, K through 8. And going to Topeka West, a school of 1,000, was really quite a difference. I think that the multiple building layout really helped because there were fewer kids in each building. And really the student to faculty ratio didn't feel too different from the private school, except for maybe a few classes.
Great. Other questions or? Jacob, thank you very much. You and Wyatt, two talented individuals that love math way more than anybody could. Somebody that says, not to brag, I took honors Calc 2 for fun in college, which was not fun, and I almost failed, and I almost wasted money. But I identify with your guys' love of learning, and I hope you both go on to do great things with the support of obviously the people that are here, but also the support of us, your district. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, next for the evening. So we've kind of made this a thing every year with Ms. Kimsey and Ms. Dixon in the education pathway or the teacher training pathway at TCALC, in that we compete and do well in Educators Rising every year. And so we have another group of students that will be going to nationals in Educator Rising this year, and they have a couple of students with them this evening. So I'm going to turn over to Ms. Kimsey and Ms. Dixon to talk about their students and give them their certificate tonight.
I'm a little bit shorter. I'm Diane Kimsey, and I know most of you.
Robin Dixon. Ellie Heisey. I'm Tessa Noland.
And we are part of the Educators Rising. We have 6 students who qualified to go to nationals this year, which is really exciting. And we have the vomiting, flu, and strep throat in our classroom very, very heavily. So these are the 2 survivors that were able to come and speak tonight. So we would like to, I think you know what Educators Rising is, and between Robin and I, we can share. I teach the morning class, Robin teaches the afternoon class. The kids have a variety of more than 20 different areas to compete in, and they get to choose the area they want to compete. And it is project-based learning projects, and each one is over 40 hours long and being able to complete. So they're pretty amazing, the projects that these kids have been part of. Our kids who aren't here, Aveline Bowling is a senior at Topeka High, and Aveline, has written and illustrated a children's book that is stinking amazing with moving parts and flips and flaps and I don't know. So then along the same line.
So we also had for our very first time, someone compete in Spanish children's literature, which was very exciting. And Henry was unable to be here, but he placed first place for the state, and Aveline placed first place in hers as well. So
They both earned 100% of the points too. And these rubrics they're detailed. So for both of them to earn 100% in their books is really phenomenal. So we're very proud of them. Henry is a Highland Park High School kid, Aveline's Topeka High. Then we have Maddie Folsom, who followed, I think we saw earlier. She is madly in love with her first grade teacher, who is now principal at McCarter, Monica Tiller. And so she followed Mrs. Tiller number of days and interview questions deluxe, and then a presentation, then a write-up. Then that's all of you, right? So now I'm going to let them tell about theirs, the area that they did. So Ellie, you're up first.
Hi, I'm Ellie. I competed in lesson planning in the fine arts. So I went to Whitson Elementary, and I think it was Miss Holmes, right?
Cameron.
Cameron Holmes, she's a third grade teacher at Whitson. And so I went into her class for, I think, about an hour, and we did a play with a few of her third grade students.
But the lesson plan part beforehand was tremendous. And then I had to videotape her lesson that she did with the kids. And
It was readers fluency.
It was a reader's theater
Yeah.
production. And then what did you have to do with the video?
So I had to edit it a lot, you know, make it into 10 minutes, and then I had to send it in, and then I had to write up a whole lesson plan about what I did, how I took care of the students that I was working with, and
It's a reflection.
yeah, just like reflecting on what I did, how I did it, and why I did it that way. So.
And then this is Tessa Nolan, and Tessa's partner in crime is one of them that's down with the flu. So what did you, and who's your partner?
My partner is Alasia Wisham Mason, and we competed in the PSA section. So we created a PSA video on teacher recruitment, and doing that, we got to interview a lot of different people, like a college student, a student teacher, and a librarian, and a few others. And we learned a lot. We got to see different perspectives on the world of teaching, and I think it was really helpful to us because we got to see like the joys of teaching. And then we had to come up with the slogan, which was inspire generations, and we felt like that was important to us because that's what we are going to do, is inspire generations. And then we had to our video could be no longer than 2 minutes, so we had to make sure we had to, fix our transitions to be slow, but not too slow. And we had to also, make sure everybody got their part in. And it was just a good learning experience for us.
What was your background song?
Our background song was Find Your People. I'm not sure who sang it, but we felt like it really suited what we wanted to get out there.
Yeah. Questions for Ellie or Tessa? Yeah, Miss Bowling.
So you were talking about your commercial or your, whatever you call that, I'm sorry, PSA. Aspiring generations. Who inspired you?
Mrs. Kimsey. She's been my biggest inspiration. I am in her class for the second year in a row, and Through all of that, she has showed me that I can do more than what I think. She's really been there for me and given me so many chances, and she's definitely been my biggest inspiration.
That is great. How many sections did you get to choose from to create your project?
Meaning,
So elaborate that a little bit more.
So each of them went in a different category. So how many different categories are there?
More than
there were more than
20.
Yeah,
yes.
it's more than 20.
And I had the option, I was going to compete in Educators Rising Moments, which was a speech. But Alasia wanted to do the PSA video and she had to have a partner. So that's what I ended up doing.
That's what teachers do. They cooperate together and they figure out the best way to do it. So you're already there. I'm hoping you're thinking of Topeka Public Schools.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. We're going to send the superintendent over to give you a hug in a few minutes. So we are just so proud of the fact that you are going to nationals. And we're extremely proud of your instructors because they take a group every year to nationals, and your hard work in inspiring these students to be the best profession in the world. We just appreciate you doing that for our students, no matter where they might go. But I really hope it's Topeka Public Schools. Thank you.
They're good. They're good to go. We're going, nationals this year is in Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
So they switch each year. Last year, Washington
DC.
This year, Orlando. It goes back and forth. And so, as Robin and I were sharing with Dr. Anderson during dinner this evening, this is going to be the largest Educators Rising conference ever. They will have over 3,000 students there this year. So it's very powerful. And like we were saying, you just get the chills when you walk in to the room and you just know we're going to be okay. Give us some time. We're going to be okay. Meanwhile.
And we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
We can't wait to talk to you when you come back with all your accolades.
Thank you so much.
Other questions from board members? Thank you guys both. Thank you to your instructors. And I would agree, you know, being in this position, sometimes it feels like nobody wants to be a teacher any longer. It feels on the outside looking in like it could be thankless, but obviously you guys know the spark and the joy that it can bring and the lives that it can touch. So we appreciate that so much.
We have 15 kids in our program this year, so it's our largest year. So,
Thank you, guys.
So the certificates are both for both you, Tessa, Ellarine, or Ellie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations for qualifying. And I believe, do we have an intent to hire up here, Mrs. Sharp, for the team? Okay. So while we were at dinner, I sent HR the message. Now, you've already received an intent to hire, which is an intent to hire you 4 years from now. It's something we started about 8 or 9 years ago when I first started. And so you've already accepted your position 4 years from now. Where are you going to be teaching, or what grade or content?
Hope is kindergarten at Williams Elementary.
Okay, your hope and plan is
My hope and
kindergarten.
plan.
Okay, is Williams Elementary Kindergarten 4 years from now. So all of those future families, this might be your kindergarten teacher if you're at Williams. And then for you, where now you don't have your intent to hire. And so this evening she gets her intent to hire as a state qualifier. So let's congratulate Tessa, Ellie as well. So Ellie, where is your plan to teach at in Topeka Public Schools?
So I was really looking at Whitson because that's where I went, but I do want to go out and maybe go to Scott Dual Language. I just feel like it's, a different area than what I know.
So either Whitson or Scott, do you know what grade level?
First, second, kindergarten, the lower grades.
Okay, so early childhood at
Yes.
Scott or Whitson, and you went to Whitson, you went to Jardine Elementary, Jardine Middle. And so again, we welcome you to the Topeka family. When we do take the break and get the photo together, your intent to hire will be up. Hang on to that. In 4 years from now, you'll at least know your salary will be at that or above. Congratulations, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then I believe we have a CTE proclamation, but rather than reading the proclamation, I believe we're going to be doing some highlights under superintendent's report for CTE.
So do we want to take a break for
And
photos?
so we'll take 5 minutes for photos and let's start with our National Merit Scholars. I gotta go get my purple jacket though, but come on up. Let's start with Topeka High. Do you want mom and grandma and dad to come on up?
Oh, would you look?
Yeah. A lot of hard work and tears and love. Mom, grandpa, grandma, dad. Where is it?
Congratulations.
Go. All right, on 3, 1, 2. All right. Congratulations. Okay. Yeah, okay. We'll chat after. Yes. All right, on 3. All right. On 3. Yeah. All right, there.
Come back up.
Yeah. I said it right behind you. I think it's pretty much all that we got going on.
Do they have these work sessions?
Okay. I think we are on public comments. Okay, no public comments. So that brings us to the disposition of business by consent. So I'll look for a motion.
I move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
And is there a second for that motion? Ms. Boley? Any discussion? Dr. Bonebreak? Dr. Bonebreak, can you do your microphone?
I was just wondering about the football helmet. They cost 400 and some odd dollars each. And it sounds like we're spending almost that much on repair.
We have the perfect person here today to
Yes.
speak to that. Mr. Dick, you have 4 items tonight, Mr.
Yeah.
Dick.
I wasn't expecting this one, but so most of the time our helmets are in a 5-year rotation. We do have a system where they come out and they inspect them every year to see what ones need repaired, what needs to be done with that. And then there's a replacement schedule to go through and replace them kind of on a rotation basis through each of the schools. I say each of the schools, but really every year, every school gets helmets inspected and then they get replaced. They are relatively expensive when we have to do that. They've gotten more close to $450 a piece anymore, or a little more than that.
What proportion get repaired every year?
Oh, without having a lot of data in front of me, I'd hate to guess. I wouldn't say it's about 30%. But I can get better numbers and send those to you.
They're all interior linemen?
It varies. It's the whole range of them. We just want to make sure the kids have good, solid equipment to play in, so it's safe.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions? Okay, if not, we'll go to a vote.
Unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Back to Dr. Anderson and Mr. Dick, I think.
That is correct. So Mr. Dickey is here to talk about CTE. You'll notice on the proposed board work sessions, one of those, the very first one is, we'll talk about the other ones and if those are in alignment with what you'd like. But CTE was one of the ones that's also a board goal for you. So that area, Mr. Dick will talk about some new things in CTE and highlight some career technical education staff that's here with us this evening.
So first, I want to bring Laura Nichols up with me. Laura is the associate principal at TCalc and does a lot of the day-to-day work and everything that happens at TCalc and really is instrumental in a lot of the things that are happening here. So we're going to share lots of updates tonight about some of the programs we have and a couple new things we're going to start in the direction that's going. And we're very excited about some of the things that we have. There are a few other things in the works that we probably shouldn't share yet, but would be pretty cool if they come to be as well. So there's a lot going on. Also, just because she's in the K-State Leadership Academy, Lauren Westhoff is here tonight doing an observation, and she's the animal science teacher at TCalc. So I think we've got a slideshow, and we'll go through a few of these things. You've got a handout at your at each of your spots, I believe, as well, that we'll get to, at the end as one of the last things we're going to talk about, but probably one of the most exciting things we'll talk about tonight. So the CT update, I come every year a little bit and we talk about some of the pathways and the different things that happen. There's always some changes to CTE. A lot of that is driven at the state level each year, and then just our response to that and how we're going to do it. So we've got 14 new application level courses that are being implemented this year. In the CTE world, you have introductory technical courses, then application level courses. So kind of the final end of the pathway for students. So there's 14 new courses there. We have 16 unique pathways within the Topeka Public Schools. Some of those happen at TCalc and exclusively at TCalc, but a lot of them are spread out among all of the high schools and feed towards TCalc for a few of those programs. Community engagement is a big thing. Ms. Nichols has done a lot of work on the community engagement side to help kind of expand and enhance some of the partnerships that we have. And so far, we've included about 15 new business partners in part of the things that we do at TCalc throughout this year. Those are challenging to maintain and keep up with everybody. And it's something I kind of always have to remind myself. We're one school district in the community with others that are competing for the same entities and resources and the internships and all the partnerships. But we do a pretty good job of securing partnerships for our students and schools. 37 different guest speakers. There's 69 students that are in internships currently that are TCALC students. And then many of you know, but TCALC is really a 2-year program for most students. Year 1, year 2, we lose some students from year 1 to year 2, or they find that whatever the pathway is that they're in is really not what they're interested in, which is in my opinion, a perfectly fine outcome to figure that out now. But next year, we've got 114 students that plan to return to the next year, which is up a little bit from the previous year. I'll let Ms. Nichols talk for a minute about enrollment and just some of the stuff looking into next year. We've increased dramatically in enrollment and some of the efforts she's done there, which is some of the stuff that the next few slides that we'll go through. But we have a waiting list for just about every pathway that we have to try and get into. So I'll let Ms. Nichols speak to that a little bit.
Hi, good evening. I added that last statistic about year 2 students, if you remember when I was here in the fall, right?
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about kids getting all the way through and having that experience. So I thought that was great to see a lot of our kids returning. And credit to our teachers for creating unique opportunities for year 2 students, as opposed to just kind of being in the classroom all day. They have them out doing all kinds of stuff. And the partners have really helped with that, right? Job shadows and guest speakers. So one of the things we did different this year is we trained up a group of our kiddos to give tours. And they led the tours. Every sophomore in the district gets a tour of TCALC, and they got to hear from their peers, which was really great. The response was fantastic. Kids emailed teachers, they had questions, and our enrollment numbers right now, kids who have requested to come next year, are significantly higher than they were at this point last year. They're actually better than they were when we finished the year last year. So we're really excited about that and every pathway being full. Some of the things we've done this year, just to kind of highlight the engagement, McClure called one day and said, hey, we'd like to create some club for 5th graders, some boys that need some guidance. Do you think your kids would be good at that? Sure. So we send a couple every week, and they learn a little bit about a new career. So Mrs. Westhoff has actually kind of helped organize that as a project of her class, which is wonderful. But the left side, they're practicing how you would wrap a dog's leg. And then the right side was our phlebotomy students. So that's been fun. Oh no. Oh, okay. Animal science. So we got the grooming studio going. It's pretty primitive right now. It's baths and toenails, but we have offered that service to every therapy dog in the district. And many of the therapy dog handlers have brought their dogs over for a grooming. That one is Mrs. Wallace's Finley. The animal science kids have also engaged in the Street Dog Coalition, which is an entity that cares for unsheltered and low income families' animals. And so they go, a couple kids go every week and have an experience working with animals. That has led to potentially a pretty exciting partnership with K-State. That's one of the things we're still kind of working through, but we think down the road we might be able to get kids through some vet tech certification courses, which is an associate's degree. So it's a big task, and hopefully we'll make some progress on that in the next year. This is our business program has really engaged with the entrepreneurial community in Topeka. K-State has an extension office in the Omni Circle. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Michael, but he does some really great work and has been really interested in engaging with us and helping young entrepreneurs. So we held a pitch contest 2 weeks ago at TCALC, sponsored by K-State, and 2 of these kiddos won some money really to scale their business. So they've got started with a product and they just want to expand. So it's really cool. If you've never been part of one of those, they have to put together a whole presentation about why you should invest in me. It made me a little nervous watching them, but they've practiced now a few times and they do a great job. And Dr. O'Connor has been incredibly supportive of the kiddos getting out and seeing what this is about. A few things we're working on for the rest of the year. We're going to do a very small scale version of Job Olympics with the IIC students across the district. They currently attend a huge event at Johnson County with hundreds of kids, and that's a little overwhelming for those students. So we're going to practice, and then maybe we'll grow that a little bit over time. We're going to co-host a design challenge with, where's Becky Kramer at? Brown County? In Topeka at the Judicial Center. So that is kids get a prompt. They have an hour to come up with a solution. And then they pitch their solution back to the business partner. So I'm excited about that. That's a CAPS network kind of thing that we haven't really embraced hosting yet. So we're excited about that. And then we're going to have all fifth graders to TCALC in May for a career fair. Each of our pathways will put on a little activity for them, and they'll get to see our building and interact with our students.
So several years ago, it's been quite a while now, there was a pretty strong push from the board and a priority to have a computer science program. We started one at TCALC. We struggled to find the right teacher to be able to make that go really well. It kind of fizzled out a little bit, but we've worked now to embed computer science in all of the high schools. And so we are to the point now that we have a 4-year program in computer science through Project Lead the Way, set up and ready to go in each of the high schools. The teachers that do that go through Project Lead the Way training. It's pretty rigorous for each course. They won't let you teach the course until you get through the training and earn your certificate. And so we're working through getting teachers through all of these programs at each of the high schools to be able, but next year at Topeka West and Topeka High, we will have all 4 years of the program out that students could enroll in and take. Highland Park is a little behind by about 1 year in that sequence of getting all the courses out there and available, but they should be there by the end of next year in the same way to be able to do that. We, again, use the Project Lead the Way curriculum, and then students can, if they need to, use these credits to count for a math or science credit when they get through computer science. So we're excited about that, to have that in place. A new one for next year at TCALC is automation and industrial manufacturing. So students, hopefully when they get through this program, will have the Certified Production Technician Certificate. There is a lot of movement in this area in the community. When you talk about like the Panasonic plant in DeSoto and a lot of those things coming, there's a lot of interest in how do we get students prepared and train a workforce to be able to go fill the jobs in these places. So we're working in alignment with Washburn Tech and some dual credit opportunities there down the road. So we would be the first level of courses for them. Students could then go to work with a certificate if they want from us, or go to Washburn Tech and further their education. We did get a $60,000 Perkins grant in addition to our regular Perkins grant for equipment for this pathway for next school year. And we've been working with some partners like Mars, Berry Plastics, RS Maintenance, HME, as part of some excitement around this, and their willingness to bring people to us to talk to students, to interview students. We're working on some tours of their places with them. Some of that stuff gets a little tricky, but they're pretty engaged and excited that we're moving in this direction. So we're excited about this pathway for next year. The handout at your desk is probably one of the more exciting things we've done, and Ms. Nichols has been very instrumental in pushing this forward and along the way. But we now have a process and a plan in place to help with the teacher shortage and the workforce shortage that we have. So this is pretty exciting. So in 2 years' time, a student now in the teaching pathway at TCALC could earn an associate's degree from Washburn in early childhood education. They then go on to Washburn, and in 2 years, so we can shorten their time through the university by 2 years to earn their degree as an elementary teacher. There's a lot of stuff in here about the things that have to go through that. So at the same time as they're doing their Washburn coursework, they would finish their Topeka Public Schools coursework. So they'll get an associate's degree and a high school diploma at the same time. We have to set up an apprenticeship program within the district to employ those students as we do that through the apprenticeship program. This is no cost to a student. They can finish those 2 years and get through that without any cost to them in doing that. There's a sample, I think the next slide talks about the school day for them. So their entire school day for that junior and senior year would be done at TCALC. They would be going through the teacher pathway courses. Then they would stay at TCALC and do courses through Washburn, either online or they'll send a professor to us to go through that at a significant reduction in cost. They were very helpful in that. And then they'll spend some time as an apprenticeship placed in a classroom in the district, working for part of their day. When we get to the year 2 portion of this in 2 years, there'll be some combination. We'll probably have to do like a year 1 students in the morning and a year 2 in the afternoon and flip flop that. But we're very, very excited about this opportunity. It's pretty exciting. And there's a lot of details in your handout there. The 3rd page in, I think, kind of gives you the course sequence. This is primarily designed to get students through elementary education. If they wanted to be a secondary teacher, it's a little bit more challenging to do what we need to do, but you can see in semester 4, there is some options there for students to do a little bit different coursework. We probably couldn't get a secondary teacher done in 2 years post high school, but not too long after that, based on the coursework that they need to get done. I want to just publicly thank Washburn for their willingness to do this with us. They don't currently have an associate's degree program in education. They've had to go to the Board of Regents and go through the process to add this, to allow us to be able to do this. And they've been great to work with. And I don't know, really, Ms. Nichols has been extremely instrumental in this. I don't know if there's anything you want to add or something I've missed as part of this that's exciting, but.
I would just say, to me, this is the pathway that has the toughest barrier to enter the workforce when kids graduate from high school, right? So as Ms. Kimsey and Ms. Dixon and I talked about what can this pathway look like, how do we get kids there faster? Those students, they never laughed at me when I had an idea, which is great. And they've just been super helpful along the way. You know, how do we do this? How can we do this? And they really were, you know, just sign me up. How do we create teachers? So it's been really fun. And I think some kids are excited about it. I've been in to visit with them too. And the ones who are seniors are not pleased that they are missing out, but there's some really wonderful kids in that pathway you guys will get to meet when we hire them in a few years.
If a student didn't want to be part of that part, they want to just be part of the teaching pathway and not go through the whole program in Washburn, that's fine. They can still do it that way and just not participate in the Washburn portion of this. And that's really the last of the update. The only thing that I kind of realized as I was sitting here tonight we didn't include in here, we still have a great and fantastic, strong partnership with Stormont Vale doing CNA and phlebotomy. That really only gets stronger and stronger. And we are transitioning from this year from the CNA program to a PCT program, which was another, I mean, that the way that we did that and working with Stormont Vale, that changed what schools do for students going into nursing across the state of Kansas. We're the only ones and the first ones to do PCT and recognize PCT as a certificate that students can earn and then a path to employment at the hospital, which is really what they get employed to do. So the CNA got them part of the way there, but then the hospital still had to train them quite a little bit. Now they can leave us and be ready to go to work, and other hospitals and healthcare employers across the state now recognize that PCT certificate as an entry into the workforce in healthcare. So we're pretty excited about all of those things. There's good stuff happening at TCALC and in the Topeka Public Schools.
Turn this over to the board. It's exceptional what they've done in the time that they've been together. They're just even as a team. PCT is patient care tech. And we are just thrilled at how not only are they changing what they're doing at TCALC, but they're becoming a model for the state in some pretty amazing ways.
Yeah.
We'll turn it over to the board for any questions you may have.
Yeah, Mr. Tatum.
Wow, you guys are absolutely knocking it out of the park. I am very proud of what you guys have accomplished here. So if I'm understanding the teacher apprenticeship program, a student will begin their sophomore career in high school, and then throughout their junior and senior year, they'll take regular high school Topeka Public Schools coursework concurrent with what they're learning through Washburn University's associate program. And so when they finish and they graduate from high school, they will also be graduating with their associate's degree in early childhood education. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. And nobody else is doing this across the state.
This will be the pilot program. part of this, there's a lot of entities that work together here. So there's Washburn.
Absolutely.
There's PCALC, there's the Topeka Public Schools and HR and Ms. Sharp and everybody that has to agree to an apprenticeship program here and that we're going to hire students and be able to do this. KSDE's behind us and what they have to do on the
Fantastic.
youth apprenticeship part and some of that. And so KSDE sees this as the model to roll out across the state and how we try to address the teacher shortage and a pathway and a system to be able to do that.
This could really be a game changer. One of the things that I question, I don't see with what you've given us here, and thank you for this. I'm going to spend quite a bit of time looking over this because this is exciting to me. But I don't see any requirements for entering into the program. And it could be because they're the same requirements that all TCALC students would have to meet the criteria for. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, that would be none. And we have talked with counselors quite a bit about making sure students are able to maintain the coursework. You know, college lit and college speech and some of those things are not super easy. So we want to make sure that we get students who are ready to take that step, but we don't have any entrance criteria for TCALC. We let everybody come who wants to come and can make it fit in their schedule. This is a big commitment because they very likely won't go back to their home school. If they're in band, you know, if there are things that they're really tied to, I think we're going to try to figure out how to make that work. But for the most part, they'll be done in their home school.
Right, fantastic. It would be interesting to have you guys come back in, couple years to report on this, to see, how successful was this idea? My guess is I think it's going to be very successful, but it'll be interesting to kind of look at the data and see, how many people graduated from the program, how many people who graduated are employed doing the work of an early childhood teacher. So I think there's a lot of really cool stuff to mine here. So again, kudos for your work in making this come together.
Yeah, Ms. Bully.
How will it look for the students to be doing the college coursework plus their high school coursework? Who's going to be teaching the high school coursework?
So they'll be dual credit. So when they take college speech, it counts for high school speech.
Okay.
On the
that
sheet with
makes-
your courses, it kind of gives you that picture of what counts for what. Government, they're all accounted for. So most sophomores at the end of their sophomore year still need every class listed on that sheet. Next year, I think that could be a little tricky because kids weren't necessarily planning to do this, if that makes sense. So we may have some things to plug in, but yeah, it'll all be Washburn courses that will
Oh,
count
I understand.
kind of backwards.
Yeah, we'll take them back to us for graduation requirements and credit from the Topeka Public Schools.
I understand we have new partnerships this year. How many partnerships altogether do we have at TCALC now?
It's a good question. I think the 37 guest speakers is probably pretty close.
Around 37?
I would say, yeah, maybe 40-ish. And so when I listed them as a partner, that means after we had an initial conversation, something else happened. They came to speak. They took a student for a shadow day. We went to.
They're on an advisory board. They're engaged with us in a pathway in
somehow or
some
another.
capacity.
So I've probably had about 25 of those meetings in the 11 months. I have a good answer for that one this time. I probably had 20 or 25. So to get 15 of them to engage back with us feels really good. I tell him all the time, it's like speed dating and you don't get the date. But we've had some. When I looked at those numbers, I was like, okay, it's a little better than
I think people think there are plenty of people in the community that are excited and want to help schools and all that, but when it really comes down to doing it, it's hard to get
It's
everybody
harder.
together and do it. And so it sounds like it ought to be easy, but when you get into doing the work and trying to figure it out and placing the right kid in the right spot and getting the right person to come talk to your kids, it's a little harder than it seems like it might be.
Yes.
So 37's 40 is pretty good.
That's great. And then one last question. Who would our board write a thank you note to at the Washburn University for this partnership?
I think I'd address it to Julie Mazachek.
Okay. Thank you.
They have all been
Yep.
wonderful.
And she'll
Her,
get it
John
to all
Fick,
the others as
Alan
well.
Bierman, all of them have been absolutely, as soon as we approached them with it, they were on board. We will make
It's
it
just so
happen.
exciting. Much stronger program for getting teachers in the classroom quicker than some of the programs that are out there. So this is just really exciting to see the experience being put in place for these teachers in a quicker mode. So very exciting. I'm just so excited about all of it. Everything you're doing for our students. Thank you.
Dr. Beeson.
I want to echo what Ms. Boley said also. I really admire this innovation, and as a teacher who left the classroom, I really have a lot of fear for public schools and making sure that we continue to have good teachers and keep good teachers. One of the things I'm thinking about is to leave high school and have 2 years of your college education paid for. I think most people who become teachers, no one who becomes a teacher does it for the pay. It's because it's something you really love and want to do. And to pay for an education that costs the same amount, whether you're ready to be an industrial engineer or a classroom teacher, that is such a barrier for a lot of people. I'm still paying off my student loans. And I just think that that's such an incredible gift that we can give our kids. Thank you so much for the work that you've done to put all of that together. Yeah, makes me want to come to TCalc. This is so cool. So thank you.
Dr. Bonebreak.
Yes. Very impressive program. But our teachers earn half of what teachers in most of the rest of the world earn. Is there a way we could arrange with Washburn, they could get credit for a master's degree while they're working or something so that they could get into a higher plane?
Yeah, I do think there's potential. So you guys are aware now of our apprenticeship program for paras and adults in the schools. So Mrs. Kramer and I have spent some time talking about how do we transition them from this program into that program so their 4-year degree becomes zero cost to them. I think the barrier to entry in education is the cost. Just what you talked about, there's no positive trade-off. So if we can help get them there for $0 and keep them in our system, right, we're going to place these kiddos with some of the best teachers in the elementary school. So they, hopefully that inspires their passion a little bit more. But yeah, that's my longer term goal, to get them all the way through for free and keep them here.
Because in Europe, they don't have to pay for their advanced degrees.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about a master's, Dr. Bunbury. That's, let's start here.
Yeah. Ground level. Mr. Munoz.
I'm a big fan of all of that you all have shared today, but I do want to sort of tell you that I'm really excited about this automation in industrial manufacturing. There are a lot of jobs that I imagine in the next 5-10 years that will be opening up. And to be able to give some of our students that exposure, and pretty soon, once they're graduated, have these opportunities be available to them, I think we can set some students up very nicely after graduation through this program. And, you know, Mars, Berry Plastics, HME, these are companies that we hear of that are going to be here, I believe, for a long time and are looking for that. And so to be able to help our students connect those dots, get that experience, I just wanted to sort of share my kudos for y'all to working on that. Thank you all.
Other questions? One thing we look at is post-secondary success. You know, when we look at our kids graduating from high school, is there anything equivalent, like as far as CTE and our students that get certifications? Like, I'm assuming maybe not, but do we track and see kind of what progress they make afterwards and where they go?
That part gets pretty hard for us to do. So there are, in the last several years, there's the 2 years post-graduation and the success rate by, their enrollment in a program or they completed a certificate. And so we have some of that data, but what specifically they're doing or where a kid who was at TCalc and left with a certificate, what they're doing today, and if they're employed, it's hard to keep up with them once they leave us. We lose their email address. They don't use their Topeka Public Schools email address anymore. We try to capture some other email address from them, but that gets hard. So no, I guess the short answer, we don't have a real good way of knowing that.
Do we know from our partners? Like if Stormont hires a PCT or a phlebotomist?
Yeah, we hear
Yeah.
from our partners
Okay.
that are in those places about, Stormont Vail certainly tracks the data on how many students we've had through the program, how many they've brought to orientation and employed, and how many continue to be employed. We get data from them related to that.
Yeah, it's just, when we look at you talk about the investment from the corporate side, and it's easy to say, yes, I want to help, but it's also kind of what is in it for me. And there was a time, I don't know, but maybe 4, 5 years ago, maybe longer, where it was hard to get nurses and hard to get staff. And it's like, you have to look at it a little bit differently. And it's, if you have people that you can train, just like we're looking at with education, our teacher pathways, if you can train them, they develop an allegiance and you can support them. And a PCT can become an LPN, can become an RN, can become a nurse practitioner. It's like the possibilities are endless at that point. So
I do think some of the people we've talked to, Mars in particular, their team probably locally has some belief in that system because they see it work with Stormont and us. They have kind of asked for permission to partner in that like really big way. And they're just not there yet. But I think if we can kind of show them along the way that this is worth it, exactly what you're talking about, I think we'll make bigger progress with partners in the automation one specifically.
yeah. Yeah. And I think like you say, there are other schools around us that are competing for these things, but I think the history at TCalc and the excellence that the program has brought to big partners in the community, I think helps us a lot. And so I appreciate that. Anything else? Okay.
Dr.
Thank you.
Schumacher?
Yes. Ms. Bull.
The state of Kansas requires us to track our graduates 2
Yes.
years afterwards. So there could be some data there if you're totally interested. Oh, just away from this particular program.
Yeah, I know Dr. Kip follows that pretty close, but I was specifically around our certification. So a student gets phlebotomy certified. Do they then go on and go to cosmetology school, like something completely different or whatever?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Dick and Ms. Nichols. They are doing an exceptional job and it's impressive. And team, we must not forget our award-winning teacher that is here for the K-State program, but you also are here to be a cheerleader for TCalc. That really concludes our items. I do want to mention when you approve the consent agenda, Pastor Carl Frazier is in the audience because the MOU for the Peace and Justice Initiative that you also approved under consent is on the agenda. So we thank him for being here and for the continued partnership. And for the work session, CTE really covered the whole work session and we turn it back on over to the board.
Yeah, is there any other discussion for the board around CTE? Can we review the work session?
Yes, sir.
Schedule just to make sure everybody is.
So in front of you, which certainly this is open for any changes, this is just a proposal. So for this evening, CTE really was our focus. In April, Jim Edwards would come. March is only one meeting, so we don't have a second meeting. So April is the lobbyist and legislative work session. May, we're going to look at cell phones. I believe Ms. Schmidt and Dr. Bonebrake both said before next year comes, let's take a look at the policy to see if there's some stronger policies that you'd like to just have discussion about. What we can bring to you is here's the impact that we now know from cell phones thus far, because DCAC would likely be doing their report at that time. So we thought May might be a nice time since they're looking at cell phone as their report for this year, which we can line it up with that work session. June, Mr. Minky asked for that to be the finance work session, and it's really picking one topic like you had for the retreat and really dialing down on a particular topic and leaving it for you to have just discussion about your thoughts about that. July really is for Ms. Sharp and Ms. Williams and team to talk about recruitment and retention. We acknowledge and recognize there's some opportunities there for recruitment and retention. You spoke about bilingual. You also spoke about other ways of supporting classified staff. And we know that this year was a year of opportunity as we started when it came to subs and filling some positions. And so we look forward to talking about the new team and the new things that they would like to see for next year, the new team that came in place this year and the things for next year. And then for the August month, really, Chief Cochran was going to lead the safety conversation. He asked to send you a survey in early August to see what things regarding safety do you want to talk about, which might be different than what you want to talk about today. He's also offering at this time for the Professional Development Day in April. Ms. Wallace, have to remind me what date that is. He is organizing a tour that was mentioned by Ms. Schmidt at the last meeting to have of the center that really is able to partner with us in some unique ways on that Professional Development Day. But we'll send you some correspondence at the end of this week regarding that. But August being safety being the focus. And then for September, Mrs. Wallace will lead the conversation on accreditation. And for those that are going to the ICC meeting, that actually conflicts with the KISA accreditation experience in Salina that day. So I won't be with you this month at the ICC, but Ms. Wallace will lead that. One of your board goals was about moving kids out of level 1. So if there's some other academic initiatives closer to that September timeframe that you really want us to spend time on, we'll spend time on that. October, the mental health and social emotional health, you asked for that as a focus. And we'll dial down a little bit more of what you want to hear about, because there are all kinds of things you can hear about in that space. And lastly, November, we thought that's a really good time to look at the strategic plan and to spend really just a work session on, where you want us to go in certain areas, where the progress has been. Are there work sessions that we did not cover that you would like for us to adjust this and bring forward? And does this capture really what you talked about at the last meeting well enough? I'm seeing a lot of head nods.
Yeah, I think it did. Maybe the only thing, and maybe we go under mental health, I think it was Mr. Munoz had brought up the absenteeism.
Yeah, yes, chronic absenteeism.
And I think that in kind of social emotional health, I think it could tie in there maybe in October, but that was the only thing that was on my list from the last meeting that maybe.
Okay, so we'll see if that fits in either September under accreditation for chronic absenteeism, because it's an accreditation piece, or under October under mental health. Thank you for that reminder.
Thank you.
And Ms. Wallace, when is the Professional Development Day in April? April 28th, that's the day the chief will arrange for tours of the safety facility that's partnering with county schools that was mentioned previously. Anything else on work session? I think Mr. Munoz, were you about to mention something as well? All right, that concludes the items that we have for you this evening. Thank you.
Great. Even though it's not on the agenda, we will do board member comments. Not going to skip it just because Ms. Lister didn't put it on there. Dr. Bonebrake, you're up first.
The financial summary. One thing I have not found in a financial discussion is we transfer millions of dollars from the general fund to fully fund special education, which the Kansas legislature was supposed to fully fund 92%. And they're only going to fund it to 72. So we continue. I wonder what programs suffer by us not having the additional millions of dollars.
Mr. Busey was anticipating you asking that question, so he'll just take the microphone in terms of, so your question is, as funding is cut, what programs suffer in that regard? He'll start that question and then I can tag team with him. But this gives some good practice and opportunity. Go right on ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't know programmatically, what would be cut, but we're certainly keeping an eye on, the legislative bills. I was just looking at those right now. And that's a big concern, as you've seen with the legislative updates, is our special education funding. So I would have to defer to somebody else as far as how that would be affected programmatically. But, if we didn't get the funding, we'd have to transfer some money.
So right now, what Ms. Wallace and I have been looking at is some of the federal funds that we already know right now that we anticipate maybe being cut, or we've already been notified are being slimmed back. And Ms. Wallace, correct me if I misspeak in this area. As we have opportunities to reevaluate ways we're providing services and using staff, we're trying to be real thoughtful now in preparation for next year. But there's no doubt if you have less resources, you have limited opportunity to do what we currently do now. For example, just to give you some examples, summer programming would look different based on the adjustments that we are learning about. Some of our intervention and federal programming would need to look different for our at-risk students as well. Ms. Wallace, would you like to add to that?
Yes, so one of the things we're looking at for summer programming is a way in which it can be self-sustaining with a fee-based program. So minimal fee-based, similar to what we did pre-COVID. So $50 a student per week. And we're looking at what the student to teacher ratio would need to be for that to self-fund itself. So as federal dollars become more and more limited and the loss of ESSER dollars, we're looking at returning to that. And typically, I've been able with federal dollars to scholarship students, particularly in the areas of the academic camps. If more federal dollars are eliminated, then that would just be fewer students that we can scholarship for summer programming. And we, ultimately, it also goes down to slimming positions and relooking at how we're utilizing current staff and looking at attrition.
So is our extended school year at risk that we had last summer?
Currently, for this summer, Ross and will have their school improvement grant dollars to continue that this summer. Those grants are due in March, but they do stem from Title federal dollars. They're a subset of Title. So while we are writing the grants, whether or not the money will be there is another thing.
Yeah. And I was also on the Health Insurance Committee. The Smart Shopper was brought up again, and certainly you can get a lower price depending on where you go to a hospital or private practitioner, but that's still the same one way or the other. And it changes every 4 or 5 years, whether you get a cheaper endoscopy in the hospital or at the physician's office. Then in 5 years, it'll be the opposite. Regardless, LR managed to negotiate 3 years of health insurance. It is going up 7.5% this year, but it would have gone up over 29% had that agreement not occurred. What happens next year's, I think it might be 13% in 2 years. Now, one thing we were trying to do was catch diseases at an early stage. So the Wellness Committee, instead of passing out T-shirts and Yeti coolers, we're trying to have individuals pay more if they do not get an annual exam and pay less if they do get an annual exam. And hopefully that would even out. So we'll see how that could be arranged, but they would have a year to show proof of a primary care evaluation, because preventative care does lower the insurance costs. But the majority of our employees do not get an annual exam. You catch a cancer early, the expenses are less and chances of survival are greater. Plus catching hypertension, diabetes, you name it. But half our employees don't seem to agree. Maybe in the pocketbook, they will.
I think that's it. Dr. Beeson.
That was a mic drop, Dr. Bonebrick. I am also on the Health Insurance Committee, and I could only join for the first half, so I'll let Ms. Schmidt fill in anything that Dr. Bonebrick missed. I've spent the past 3 days straight listening to the legislature all day, every day. It's a very dark experience. Oh gosh. I have a lot to say, but I'm not going to tonight. I do think that our trans students and families need some extra love and support right now. As a distraction, I think there's a lot of targeting going on against that population of people, and many of whom are in our classrooms. A bill passed out of the Senate today, not quite with a veto-proof majority, but that would legislate our schools and require employees to call students by the name on their birth certificates and by the pronouns aligned with their biological sex. I don't believe birth certificates are even required for enrolling a student in schools. So as a former teacher, that's a very ominous piece of legislation in my mind, and a very dangerous space to put our schools in and our families in. Contact your legislators. That's what will make, hopefully, a difference. We need to hold those votes. Equity Council meeting will come up next week on Thursday, so I will report on that. A thank you to our families for their patience on snow days. I know it's very disruptive to family plans, but is for the safety of everyone. And every time we return to school, I am astonished at how cleared and clean sidewalks and parking lots are. Our staff just does an amazing job. So I will leave it at that.
Ms. Boy.
We've been able to talk about a lot of excellence in our district tonight, but I also wanted to call out our ROTC programs. Depending on which program you are in the high schools, they are going to competitions and winning so many awards. And so many of those students decide that the military is for them because of that structure and what they receive in those programs. So very proud of those programs and their successes. Of course, there's a play tonight, and actually not tomorrow night, just Sunday.
No, it's
Fridays. Okay, I
Yeah.
thought they pulled one of them. So that's
I think it's still tomorrow night.
great. You should go see Little House of Horrors. Also, we had a personnel meeting. We definitely still need substitutes. We have classrooms that need to be covered by caring and loving people, and we would really welcome you into our district. Our personnel group is also starting some professional development or like academies for our substitutes and for our paraprofessionals to help them get on the ground running and feel more secure about what they're doing in the classroom. So we really do want to wrap our arms around you and hire you. So please think about that. Another successful budget audit, again, for our district year after year. Our finance department does such a wonderful job, and the company that we hire to audit us to make sure we're spending your tax money correctly does an excellent job of watching over that, and we just are blowing it out of the park. And so we're very appreciative of that. Please contact your legislators. Please watch the education bills nationally and locally. There was an opportunity for the Education House decided to give $30 million to special education. And by the time it got to the allocation committee, they reduced that to 10 million to be divided between all of the districts in Kansas. This is not helping us make up our special education money. So I don't think that we can really change that for this year, but please let them know how important it is for our most at-risk students that they support them. It's just so important. And it's not just our trans population that we should be worrying about. We have a lot of our students, no matter what population they're in, that are under attack. And I'm just so proud of our district for supporting them and reaching out to the families to help support the families. And it just makes me proud to be a board member, to be a part of that. And I appreciate all the work our district is doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd. Mr. Tatum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Trying to think here. I think a good job has been done so far by I think Dr. Bonebrake did a nice job of kind of laying out some of what we talked about in Finance Committee. I know Mrs. Bowley was there too. I think, and actually Dr. Anderson talked about some of the things that came up in the Finance Committee meeting last Thursday. I think one of the biggest takeaways is that there are likely changes that are going to be coming soon to district finances, things that are happening at the federal level and at the state level that are likely going to impact our budget and how we provide for educational services here in the district. I think Mrs. Bowley did a great job, and Dr. Beeson of kind of spotlighting the legislative challenges. Also impactful. I mean, this is all of a kind. All these things are working together legislatively to impact our budget and our finances and our students. And
On public school.
it certainly does feel like an attack on public schools. And as a member of a public school board of education, I'm taking those things kind of personally. We care about our students and we care about our district, and we're trying to do great work here. And it feels like there are forces that are actively trying to undermine the work that we're doing and push back against the collective good that we are trying to accomplish through public education. So I want to give kudos to our lobbyist, Jim Edwards, who's doing a fantastic job of keeping us updated on things that are happening at the State House, and then proposing a course of action for us to contact legislators about this particular bill or that particular item, and reach out to them, reach out to those folks in the State House that are going to be making these decisions. So thank you to Mr. Jim Edwards for that work. Lastly, I also want to really give a shout out to all the professionals impacted from all the snow days that we've had over the past couple of months. I don't know about you, but I was ready to send Madison back to school today because she was going to eat us out of house and home. And it's good that we were able to offer the opportunity for families that were uncomfortable with sending their kids back today, the opportunity to not be penalized if you didn't want your child to return to school today. But I'm glad that in my household, we made the decision that my daughter would go back to school. And my older daughter too, because that's where the learning takes place. And with a lot of these snow days, we are some kids are really wrestling with maintaining the material and keeping the momentum going. There seems to be all kinds of interruptions because of Mother Nature, but just wanted to recognize the good work that our professionals in the district are doing to keep the learning going in spite of this nasty winter weather that we've had. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. Mr. Munoz?
So we have policy and equity next week, so no reports to share with you as of yet. Other than that, I think nothing that hasn't already been said. I've written my share of letters to our local legislators to make sure they understand the implications of some of the legislation that's been being considered. I spoke to a couple of high school classes a week or two ago. I can't remember, and I think that's it.
Thank you. Yep. Okay. Ms. Schmidt?
I'm telling you, I love being down here because everything's been taken care of. So I was thinking as our future teacher scholars were up here speaking, and she put together the PSA for teacher retention. And I'm thinking we need to get a hold of that and see if we can use that during Teacher Appreciation Week. I think it would just be impactful if it's applicable to put that out there during that time. Not that our communication team isn't amazing and does their own amazing things, but just a different lens that it would come from. Other than that, like I said, I think everybody's covered everything pretty extensively, so.
I'll just take another 30 minutes to go through. Thanks. I also want to thank Washburn. I think for me growing up in Topeka, Washburn was never that attractive to me as a university. But as an adult living in Topeka, knowing the impact that it has on our community in big ways and in little ways, I appreciate that place a whole lot. And so thank you to them. We did approve the committee changes, which there's not much, but I did take Ms. Boley's spot on the finance committee. Sorry, Ms. Boley, but thank you, which she graciously offered up. As a reminder to echo some of the things that have been touched on, if people are listening and are not joining the legislative advocacy listserv that Mr. Edwards and Dr. Gray help put out, is very helpful to help keep track of what's going on and how it impacts our students. I would echo Ms. Boley that the Topeka West Thespians break a leg with Little Shop of Horror. I'm pretty sure it's tonight, tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday at 2. Yeah. 7 for the evening shows and then 2 for the matinee. And then so as a reminder, we have the meeting on the 13th of March. So don't show up the week before. It's just one meeting in March, and I will be attending DCAC with my lovely wife on March 4th. So I'll report back on that in March. And so that's all I have. So I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I'm just going to call out that the motion is in bigger type than the rest of the motions, and it is bolded. So in that spirit, I move the meeting adjourned.
And a second. Dr. Bonebreak. And then show of hands.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.